It's almost Christmas time and I've made these unique LED light wooden ornaments. Let me show you how to make them. I'll pop a full list of items you'll need in the description below. We're going to use wooden rounds for this project. They are double-sided and quite rustic looking with a semi-smooth texture. They also come with jute string so you can hang them on a Christmas tree. You'll also note some come in odd shapes, so it's about picking the rounds you think look best. I also recommend buying some extras because you will inevitably make some mistakes. We need to measure the size of our decal, so using a ruler, measure the diameter of the ornament, which is across the middle. I've chosen to measure 2 inches, so this leaves a little bit of wood around the edge because they're quite oddly shaped and will also help keep that rustic look. This is Waterslide paper. It allows you to print on transparent paper and adhere it to a number of different smooth objects like candles, glass, and ceramic. You will obviously need either a inkjet or laserjet printer to print your decals onto the Waterslide paper. We're going to paint a white circle onto our wooden round before we apply the Waterslide decal, and this will make the decal colors more vibrant. Now you could paint the circles by hand, but my hands can be a little shaky. It looks much cleaner to create a stencil that you can reuse and paint a perfect circle. I'm using permanent vinyl in a color that I don't really use day to day, but you could also use removable vinyl as well. To make our stencil, open a new canvas in Cricut Design Space. Go to the Shapes tab and make a circle. At the top of Cricut Design Space here, we're going to change the size that matches the diameter that we recorded earlier. Mine are 2 inches. Make sure the padlock remains locked so that we have a perfect circle. Then create a square from the Shapes tab and resize it so that it's 1/2 inch bigger than your circle. Highlight both the square and the circle. Go up to a line and click Center. Then go to the bottom right-hand corner of Cricut Design Space and click Slice. This will cut the circle out of the square shape. Delete everything except the square with the circle hole cut out. I made 10 copies of this stencil so that I could paint 10 wooden rounds at a time. Click Make It and cut this stencil out with your Cricut just as you would a regular vinyl decal. When weeding, we're removing everything except the square with the circle cut out. Carefully place the stencil vinyl over the top of the wooden round, being sure to keep it in the center. Then with some white acrylic paint and a paintbrush, we're going to paint the inside circle part of the stencil, being careful not to paint outside that stencil area. Notice my painting technique. I'm leaving the brush pretty dry. Try not to load it up with too much paint because then it will seep through under the stencil and create an uneven shape. I ended up giving mine 2 coats because the wood was pretty porous and sucked up the paint. The great thing about these stencils is that they're reusable, so I can simply peel them off and use them on another ornament. And I created plenty of spare ornaments just in case some of them ended up looking a little bit shonky. Don't forget to also paint the backside of the wooden round because we'll be applying the decal to both sides. Let them dry completely while we complete the next steps. I've gone with a LED light Christmas design from Creative Fabrica, and I'll pop a link to this in the description below. To use these images in Cricut Design Space, simply download the file, which will download as a zipped folder. Then right-click the folder and extract all. After that, we can view the PNG images inside the folder and decide which ones that you'd like to use for your finished product. Make a note of these, as the folder has over 105 different circular images, and they can be hard to locate when uploading in Cricut Design Space. Once we've chosen our designs, head on over to Cricut Design Space, and on a new canvas, click the Upload button in the left side panel. Click Upload Image and browse your computer to locate your image of choice. Click Complex on this screen and then click Continue. And we don't need to remove the background or anything here, so we can simply click Apply and Continue. And then click Print, then Cut. You can rename your image so it's easier to find later if you like. Then click Upload. If you're making multiple ornaments, I recommend uploading all of your images first, and then we can simply select all of the uploads like so, and then click Add to Canvas. When you load the decal into Cricut Design Space, it will be much larger than the size we need, so we do need to size them down. Click the image and change the size up here to match the diameter we took earlier. Mine were 2 inches. Then we're going to right click and duplicate the image because we want to make both a front and back image for our ornament. Repeat these steps for the rest of your images. And as I mentioned earlier, I recommend making some extra decals because it is inevitable that some of your decals will get damaged, especially when you're first learning how to apply these decals. You might also want to make sure you're fitting the maximum number of decals on your Waterslide paper so there's no wastage. Click Continue and we're going to Send to Printer. Select your printer of choice in this drop-down. I've turned off bleed because our Waterslide paper is transparent, so it doesn't matter if the cut is slightly off. We also want to turn on the system dialog box because this will allow us to adjust the print quality settings manually. So this is my printer's manual settings. Yours might look a little bit different, but I'm clicking Preferences here, and the paper type must be changed to gloss and the print quality changed to best, so it adds more ink and creates a vibrant decal. Before we click print, we need to insert the Waterslide paper into our printer, and notice it has a glossy side and then a paper style backing with writing on it. So my printer has this little icon. I can see that I need to insert it this way to ensure the gloss side is facing the right direction. Once the paper is inserted, click print. If you have more than one page of decals, go to the next mat and repeat these steps until everything is printed out. Now before we cut with our Cricut, we're going to seal our Waterslide decal. You will need some acrylic spray. I'm using Rust-Oleum, and this is a really important part of our project because the acrylic spray helps seal the ink into the Waterslide paper and ensures it doesn't rub off when you apply it to the ornament. I've chosen to seal the entire paper because it's a little bit less tedious than sealing each individual decal. Shake the acrylic well for about a minute and then spray a coat of the sealer around 20 centimeters away from the paper in a back and forth motion. Ensure you're doing this in a well-ventilated room like a garage or outside your home because the fumes can be toxic. Let that layer dry for 15 to 30 minutes, then apply a second coat. Wait another 15 to 30 minutes until it's dry to the touch and apply a third coat. Now your instructions might say to apply 2 coats, but I found 3 was the optimal amount that really seals in that ink. Once you've printed, sealed, and the paper is completely dry, we're ready to cut it out with our Cricut. If you left Cricut Design Space open while you were doing the sealing process, you can simply select your material setting. But if you close Cricut Design Space, you can click I've already printed. It will skip the printing step and go straight to the material selection step. Unlike stickers where we want to achieve a kissed cut, with these decals we want to cut all the way through the paper and the backing. So I'm choosing the medium cardstock setting, which applies enough pressure to cut completely through. Place your printout onto a mat. I suggest using the light grip mat, but I have an older green mat here which has lost some of its stickiness, so I'm using that. These black detection lines will help your Cricut know exactly where to make its cut. So we insert the mat and commence our cut. Your Cricut will shine a light over those black detection lines before making the cut. Once finished, remove the decals from your mat. And here are our decals, and you can see they're nice and shiny from that acrylic spray we applied earlier, and my Cricut has cut them in a neat circle. Now everything is cut out, we're ready to apply the decal to our wooden rounds. For this step, you're going to need gloss Mod Podge or any water-based glue, a bowl of water, and a paintbrush with some tissues. Paint the Mod Podge over the white painted circle. It doesn't matter if it goes a little bit over the lines because it's going to dry clear anyway. Place one of the Waterslide decals into the water. It will curl up a little bit. You can gently flatten it with your fingers until it's completely submerged under the water. Keep it submerged in the water for 30 seconds. We want the backing to be completely wet. Once you pick it out of the water, we're going to gently slide the decal up a little bit so we can get the placement correct on top of our white circle. If it's not correctly placed, don't worry, you can lift it up and move it over to the right spot. Once you're happy with the placement of that top area, place one finger over the top of the decal to hold it in place, and with the other hand, gently pull the backing paper in a downward motion. As you're pulling it down, you can correct any air bubbles or creases and just spread it out nicely. Once the backing has been slid out from underneath the decal, you can use some tissue paper to very gently blot any excess water. Do not rub the decal with the tissue, just very lightly dab that water off. Then you can flip it over and repeat the steps for the other side. So no matter which direction the ornament is facing, they'll see the decal. Mistakes are bound to happen, especially if you're pulling too fast or being too rough with the decal. If you do end up with some minor cracks, you can use a Sharpie to draw over the white areas. Just pick a color that closely matches the decal area that has a crack and carefully color over. This is also why I said to make some extra decals and wooden rounds earlier. It might take you a couple of trials to get used to this method. For some optional bling, I've gone ahead and used this clear glitter glue over the top of my decal, which will both seal the Waterslide paper and also the glitter is iridescent, so it makes it look quite festive when it catches the light. Just make sure your decals are completely dry before you paint this on with a brush, and try not to apply too much as we still want to be able to see the decal underneath. If you're not applying any glitter glue, you can apply a thin layer of Mod Podge to protect the decal surface. If your decal goes over the hole of your wooden round, just get a toothpick and poke through that hole. You could make bows with ribbons in a color that matches your decal, but I found this covered up the ornament too much. This jute string, which matches the rustic look that we're going for, I've cut about 7 to 8 inches of the string for each ornament, insert it into the hole, and then tie a firm knot. And here's our finished product. I was actually really proud of how this turned out, especially since it was my first time using Waterslide decals and these wooden rounds. I think my family are really going to love this Christmas gift. I hope you found this useful. Let me know what you think in the comments, or if you need any extra help, be sure to shout out.